This article is from ScreenRant.com. I'm in quiet revolt. Tim Burton breaks silence on The Flash using his Batman and Superman. Tim Burton, who directed Michael Keaton as Batman and was set to direct Nicolas Cage as Superman, finally shares his thoughts on the Flash movie. For those of you not aware, I've reviewed the Flash movie. My review is linked below in the description box for you to check out. DC's The Flash movie brought back Michael Keaton's Batman in a supporting role and Nicolas Cage's Superman for a cameo, and Tim Burton, who did or was set to direct both actors, finally shares his thoughts on their appearances. Keaton starred in two Burton-directed Batman movies, 1989's Batman and 1992's Batman Returns. Following the success of his Batman movies, Burton signed on to direct the failed Nicolas Cage Superman movie titled Superman Lives. However, the movie was abandoned and Burton never returned to superhero fare, but Cage and Keaton did reprise their DC roles in this year's The Flash. It's worth saying that Nicolas Cage's role is a non-speaking one. He filmed scenes for the movie, but the de-aging CGI is so bad and kind of rubbery that you'd be forgiven for thinking that the entire performance was animated. In an interview with BFI, Burton was asked whether he had any regrets about the cancelled Superman Lives movie. When it was canned in 1998, 3 weeks before filming was to start, Burton had spent 2 years working on the film in pre-production. Of Cage, Superman Lives and the Flash cameos, Burton said, "No, I don't have regrets. I will say this, when you work that long on a project and it doesn't happen, it affects you for the rest of your life. Because you get passionate about things, and each thing is an unknown journey, and it wasn't there yet, but it's one of those experiences that never leaves you a little bit. But also it goes into another AI thing, and this is why I think I'm over it with the studio. They can take what you did, Batman or whatever, and culturally misappropriate it, or whatever you want to call it. Even though you're a slave of Disney or Warner Brothers, they can do whatever they want. So in my latter years of life, I'm in quiet revolt against all of this." I can't say I blame him really. I thought the addition of Nicolas Cage's Superman in the film was nothing more than a gimmick in a film chock full of cheap gimmicks designed to make the fans geek out and hoot and holler. Anyway, back to the article. Although Burton doesn't specifically name the Flash in his comments, it's clear that's what he's talking about by referencing his work with Batman and how this year's DC movie had changed Keaton's version of the character. It seems, based on Burton's final comment on the matter, that he's not supportive of DC bringing back Keaton as Batman, and it stands to reason he feels the same way about Cage's Superman appearance in The Flash. In terms of Burton's reference to AI, it might be due to the CGI used to bring to life other cameos. Cage filmed new footage for his Superman cameo, but CGI was used to de-age him. And, like I say, of the CGI, it wasn't exactly a smooth job. The Flash contained several cameos from both living and dead actors. Obviously, the dead ones were made possible with CG. I think this is what the multiverse concept has given us in cinema recently. The opportunity to engage in nostalgia bait, to entice fans to go and see a movie. Now, in the case of Michael Keaton's appearance as Batman, his role was probably the highlight of the film, but regardless, it's still an exercise in nostalgia and member berries, drawing on people's fond memories of the iconic Batman and Batman Returns movies from 1989 and 1992 respectively. Those movies were very much Tim Burton's vision of the Batman universe and character. The visual style, the costumes, the tone of those films, everything about those movies was his interpretation. And I can completely understand what Burton means when he uses the term cultural misappropriation, especially when it comes to his iconic version of the Batman/Bruce Wayne character. And so, to take his Batman and place him into the Flash movie in a supporting role without Burton's involvement, I can understand his discontent with that, especially when it's clear that the studio probably just wanted Keaton involved purely to tap into the cultural significance of those Tim Burton films. Now, I'm not a fan of the Flash movie at all. In fact, I think it's a terrible film. But in its defense, the Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne / Batman aspects of the film actually worked reasonably well, because they were executed with a genuine degree of respect for the legacy of the Burton films, in my opinion, with the exception of the character's clownish introduction. But I can certainly understand Burton being unhappy with the inclusion of the Nicolas Cage Superman cameo. Burton worked on developing that Superman movie for a long time, only for it to be shelved shortly before shooting was due to take place. But given recent advances in CG and de-aging technology and so forth, it's now possible to effectively bring something of that cancelled Superman movie to life, albeit in a brief computer-generated scene. Now, you could look at this in two different ways. Number one, you could appreciate that the studio and filmmakers have paid some tribute to Tim Burton's canned Superman movie, and you could view this as a nice homage to a film that could have been, that probably should have been. But number two, you could look at it as a cheap, tacky, and tasteless inclusion of Burton's Superman, done in a way that's designed as a novelty and a cynical attempt to titillate audiences. Through no fault of his own, Burton never got to have his vision of Superman realized on film. So why should anybody else? It was his baby, and it's probably a sore spot for him that the film was cancelled, having put all that hard work into developing it, and then many years later, through the use of some CGI, it's possible to create a kind of empty, hollow simulation or pastiche of Burton's Superman. No doubt it feels, from his perspective, that his Superman was deserving of more than being used as a momentary bit of visual eye candy and fan service. And of course, the studios own the rights to the old back catalogue of films, be they completed films or not, and so they can technically do what they like with their old IP. But I can still understand how Tim Burton could feel a bit shortchanged here. Finally, I'll conclude by saying once again that when it comes to de-aging of older actors who are obviously still alive, I have no issue with that. I think it's fine, especially when it's done well. It can be a very cool trick and it can serve a story very well. However, I have a big problem with dead actors being digitally recreated in films, regardless as to whether permission has been sought to use their likeness from the actor's estate or family. A dead person cannot consent to appearing in a movie, and that's it. I didn't like that The Flash brought back several dead actors. Now, George Reeves and Adam West's CGI likenesses were extremely brief, but Christopher Reeve's CG likeness was on screen for a good few seconds, and I find it especially cynical because these brief CG cameos didn't add anything to the story. They were just like little visual trinkets done to entice people to go to see the film and to try to add some depth to a completely underwhelming and mediocre movie. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. The Dave Cullen Show is made possible by you, my generous subscribers. If you'd like to support my work, head on over to my Subscribe star, linked below in the description box, and for a pledge of as little as $1 per month, you can help to keep the show going. I'm also doing one-to-one monthly subscriber chats. Thanks again. Take care.